Getting a puppy is a super exciting time, but are you budgeting for them the way you should be? Mac here has just turned 1, and I thought what better time to team up with Lemonade to share with you the actual cost of owning a dog. While bringing home your new dog is so exciting, this is definitely something you should be budgeting for, and since we talk a lot about finance here on this channel, I thought it was the perfect time to do what owning a dog has cost us in his first year of life. We're gonna cover some normal costs as well as some things you may not be considering when you first get your new dog. And when you Google the annual cost of owning a dog, the range is very, very large. From like $1,000 to $9,000, I've seen a lot in between there. So I thought I would break down all of our expenses. For a lot of these, I do have actual numbers that we spent for the entire first year. And some of these I also had to kind of guesstimate a little bit, but I'll go through that as we go through each item. Number 1 is adoption cost, and this is probably gonna be the first cost you think of when you're thinking about getting a dog. You might just see that initial cost and not think of everything else that comes along with it. So adoption costs could obviously range from free to thousands of dollars depending on if you're adopting from a shelter or from a breeder, etc. If you decide to get your dog from the shelter, which I think is amazing, the shelter that I foster animals with, they charge more for puppies, as do most shelters. Occasionally they'll have free adoption days for older dogs, and sometimes the adoption fee on older dogs is cheaper regardless, but you could expect to spend about $75 to $85. So we got Mac when he was a puppy, so he cost us $400. Next, let's talk about food. For all of these categories, I do want to say I don't feel like we fall on the super cheap end, but we also don't fall on the super luxurious expensive end. I do feel like we pretty much go right down the middle, and food could be a huge category, especially if you have a large dog, especially if your dog has certain allergies. So for us, I know there's so many opinions about different foods and what you should be feeding your dog. Something that I just kind of stick with is I'm not trying to spend $100 on a bag of dog food, but also I do want the first ingredient to be like the actual meat that's in it. So I'm sure it still has byproducts and stuff like that in it. Our dog food bag is about $33, $35, and we get it every 6 weeks. So this works out to $294 a year. So let's talk about heartworm, flea, and tick medicine. So I do fully 100% think that if you choose to take on the responsibility of a dog, you should take care of their preventative care. And again, this is something that varies on size, but this cost us $308 a year. I tend to just get them in boxes of 6. And I guess the flea and tick isn't as necessary as the heartworm, but number 1, you definitely do not want your dog getting Lyme disease from ticks, and we definitely have a lot of ticks here and we're always hiking. And number 2, I myself am highly allergic to fleas, so there could be like no flea problem because they will find me, they swell up, and it's just not a fun experience, and they're really hard to get rid of. I definitely think spaying and neutering your animals is the responsible thing to do as a pet owner, especially with such an overpopulation problem. So the great thing is if you decide to get your animal from a shelter, oftentimes they will always be spayed and neutered. However, the caveat is if they are young, you may have to bring them back once they're old enough to get neutered, and oftentimes they do this very low cost. Our quote from our vet's office was over $400, which I thought was absolutely crazy. So a good alternative to this is to actually go to different clinics, like the ASPCA does this. They'll have certain like low cost spay and neuter days, and this is what they do all the time. So we took him to like a spay neuter event and it was $85. I trusted them. I felt fine sending him there. Some people say the higher price is for more peace of mind and the vet keeps, a closer eye, may administer different medicines, perhaps. And we saved a lot of money. It went perfectly smooth, no infections, no problems, nothing. On that same note, you're gonna have your first year of shots if you have a puppy, or just kind of routine shots if you have an older dog. Mac obviously had some of his first shots when we got him, but we did still have to take him for the rest of his like booster shots and things like that. And I feel like I never leave the vet's office under $100 or $200, which just seems crazy to me. I didn't have an exact price for this, but I estimated we spent about $200 in boosters and routine shots from our vet. But a great option and something that I scheduled him for this year is actually, like I mentioned before, humane societies will have clinic days days where they'll go to like Petco or Pet Supermarket. Sometimes they even have like mobile vans, and you could bring your pets there on certain days and you could actually get their boosters. You pay cash, it's like $10, $20 a piece, and it's very easy, very quick, and significantly more affordable. Now, here's where a third of our pet expenses came in from this year, and that was emergency vet visits. So if you follow me on my vlog channel, you have probably heard this story, but I will keep it really quick. We were on a backpacking trip, which we hike and backpack all the time with Mac, and unfortunately, Mac ended up getting bit by a copperhead. He wasn't off wandering, his feet were literally on the trail. He put his nose down while we were taking a break, and he put his nose down onto a copperhead. We were freaking out. We really didn't know like if it was as deadly as like a rattlesnake, or if he would die instantly, or how long we had. And again, we were 9 miles into our hike. Luckily, we were only about 100 feet away from a service road. We were able to give him some Benadryl, so highly recommend always carrying Benadryl with you. That's what they say is great for any kind of snake bites to reduce swelling, and it definitely helped a lot. Anti-venom is very expensive. It's like $400 to $600 a vial, and sometimes they could use more than one vial. On our way there, I was frantically Googling, and I had actually read from several vet websites that they don't necessarily need anti-venom all the time, and they don't always recommend it. Sometimes the Benadryl does just work fine. This emergency vet, whom we had never been to, had quoted us at about $2,500 for emergency care plus the anti-venom, which we thought was insane. But obviously, if he's going to die, we had no choice really but to pay it. Like, we were willing to pay it. However, we had asked the vet, like, look, can you keep an eye on him until morning, and then if he's doing bad, give him the anti-venom. Like, can you just watch him? And they really did not want to do that. They reduced the diagnostic testing. So this is a little tip to always ask for a breakdown of everything and see what you can do without. They wanted over $1,000 just for diagnostic testing when we knew exactly the snake that bit him and the park ranger confirmed it. And another way we saved a lot of money is that was for 24 hours of vet care. So we were there at about 6 p.m. and when we called first thing in the morning, they said he was doing a lot better. So we went and picked him up. So it wasn't a full 24 hours, and we saved some money that way as well. This ended up costing us $998, and we were amazed at how much cheaper we had been able to get it. So always ask for breakdowns or anything like that. But we were also just shocked, like this expense was still huge. So this is where Lemonade comes in, and Lemonade offers all types of insurance, including pet insurance. We had never heard of pet insurance prior to this, and when we realized how much a freak accident could easily happen and how expensive it could be, we just knew we needed pet insurance. For as little as $10 a month, you could protect your pets, which is amazing for medical emergencies such as this. And what's great is you could get a quote in minutes. So you could go to lemonade.com/Courtney, and I will link that down below for you, but you just fill out a little quiz, and it took me less than 5 minutes to get a quote on here. You just enter your dog's age and their breed and a few other pieces of information. You could decide what you want your deductible to be, how much coverage you want, up to what amount maximum per year you want, and each cost will automatically adjust your quote so you could price it out very quickly and easily. They actually have a preventative care add-on. So if you want your routine pet visits every year and your shots and things of that nature, you could add that onto your plan, and it starts as low as $10 a month, depending on what you want. So that nearly $1,000 could have paid several years of pet insurance for Mac. So once that happened, it was really just an eye-opening experience. You hear emergency vet stories all the time and how expensive they could be, whether your dog swallows a bully stick wrong or whether they get bit by a snake. You just never know, and they could easily be $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in vet bills. And this is where it is great to have pet insurance and coverage. It is not something we even really thought of or knew existed until this happened, when we started looking into better options and ways to like add coverage. Because you have health insurance for yourself, it only makes sense to have it for your pets too. And theirs is like a fraction of the cost of ours, which is great. But moving on, let's go into some of the fun categories and maybe a few things you're not thinking of when it comes to your pet's expenses. First up is beds, which we spent $130 on various beds. And the most aggravating thing is Mac, we've learned, just doesn't really like his beds. A little pro tip is to make sure your bed cover has a zipper on it. That way you could easily take it off and wash it, and this will let it hold up a lot longer and stay nicer and cleaner for longer, so you don't have to constantly be replacing your pet beds. Next, we're going to talk about crates, and this is where we made a big mistake. So when he was a puppy, I had gotten him a small crate. It was still pretty big, but it was like small for him now. And then we had to go out and get a bigger cage when I realized we should have just got the bigger cage from the start. And pretty much a lot of kennels and crates these days actually have a divider, so you can make it smaller when they're a puppy, and that would have made things a whole lot easier. Luckily, I was able to sell the old one, get the new one, brand new off Marketplace. So I would still say I only spent about $50 because I was able to do this. They're about $40 to $50 a piece. But again, I had to buy an extra bed because originally I had a smaller bed inside and now it has a bigger bed inside. So that was a little way I could have saved some money and should have thought of ahead of time. Next, let's talk about treats and bones, which we don't give him anything rawhide, but he loves bully sticks, and bully sticks can be pretty pricey. It's about $12 for a bag of 6. When he was a puppy, these would last him for hours, and even now they could easily last him like an hour or so of chewing, which is really nice, and it keeps him occupied. So we love the bully sticks. I would average, we get a bag of these every month, so there's $12 a month. Now on the treat side, this is one I had a very hard time estimating, so I wanted to estimate a bit on the low side. Again, treats can get very expensive. I would say they're pretty much more expensive than dog food when you're looking at the quantity you're getting. So I estimated about $5 a bag, 1 bag a month. So between that and the bully sticks, I estimated $192 for the year, which sounds like a lot, but I feel like treats are very impulse purchases. You're at TJ Maxx, you're at Walmart, you just grab a bag. Next, let's talk about dog accessories. So a lot of these luckily are one-time purchases or maybe once every few years or so. It's not like a yearly expense, but if you're first getting a dog, this is something you're gonna have to account for. So this includes his harnesses. So he did need 2 different sizes. They're both very affordable though. Just get them off Amazon, and obviously one when he was smaller, one for now. Different leashes, which we haven't switched out as leashes. We've kept the same ones. We have a dog cover for our car, which is extremely handy if you travel a lot with your dog like we do. I would estimate we probably spent about $200 in this year just getting different accessories such as that. For toys, luckily toys are generally a lot cheaper than treats, and you could get a lot more for your money. So I actually calculated on Amazon alone, I spent $98 on dog toys. Now I definitely do still pick some occasionally up at TJ Maxx and Walmart. I'm not there that often. So I would estimate for the entire year, I spent about $150 on toys. He definitely doesn't destroy his toys intentionally, but they definitely do get old and dingy and dirty. So that's just something you're always gonna have to kind of be replacing. This next category is a category you might not be thinking of, and that is grooming. Now you've seen Mac, he has a ton of hair, and we really have to keep on it. We brush him pretty much every day, every other day. When we give him a bath, Andy trims his hair a lot just with like some scissors and clippers and things like that. So you could definitely do it yourself, and we've saved a lot of money doing it ourselves. I would say we've only spent like $25 in the year, and that's for like dog brushes and dog shampoo, nail clippers, things like that. I have looked into taking him to a groomer, and like the bare minimum package for his size and his breed is $85. So even if he goes a couple times a year, we're saving a lot of money doing it ourselves, and for now it's working out just fine. We're able to kind of maintain his hair, he gets no knots, anything like that. But certain people do take their dogs to the groomer every month, every quarter, things like that. So if you plan to, definitely account for that because it's not cheap. And the last thing you might not be thinking of is dog boarding. Now, because last year was 2020, we really didn't travel a whole lot, but we did find an amazing dog sitter on Rover, and we used him twice so far. We have 2 more potential things we might be using him for coming up soon. soon. But for those 2 times, we spent $224. One was just like a night and one was for like an entire week. His rates are very reasonable. They're $25 a night, and he's a college kid. He's very active, so he's super active with him. He has no other animals, so he gets a lot of one-on-one time. I definitely think Rover's the way to go in my area, because I know a lot of the actual like vet's office and boarding facilities, they're like anywhere from $30 to $50 a night. So they're quite expensive, and you could definitely get more one-on-one time with your dog through Rover. So that brings our grand total to $3,258, which is insane. If you were to ask me to guess what we spent in his first year, it would not have been that much. Although I did know we spent a lot on the emergency vet, I didn't think everything else would total up to that much. And this seems like a pretty fair and average number, considered what I found online was anywhere from like $1,000 to $9,000. So I definitely think the first year is probably gonna be one of the most expensive when you have to get all the supplies and things like that. As it goes on, it may be a little bit cheaper unless you run into the emergency vet situation like we did. That vet bill was literally like a third of our total expenses for the entire year. Let me know what you guys thought of this. Have you ever actually calculated yourself how much you spend on your animals yearly? I would love to know if you have in the comments. Maybe this is something you haven't thought of and you want to go back and calculate now. Maybe you're thinking of getting a new dog, maybe you're thinking of getting a second dog, and this all really adds up. So I hope this was maybe a little eye-opening, and it's definitely something you should budget for. Obviously it's gonna vary from dog to dog, but I think this is a pretty good general idea. So definitely let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below, and I will talk to you all very soon. Bye.